watching on the recording, you have questions, you can leave it under the video where it's posted, or you can shoot me an email or a message. So we'll get started with this month's patient. This month's patient, his name is MF. We'll go with the abbreviations MF. 54-year-old male, avid runner and cyclist, somebody that's running 5-ish miles a day, 3 to 5 days a week, and is riding maybe 25 to 50 miles on the weekend. More so, it's just a way that he spends time with his wife. Coming in with a diagnosis from his referring orthopedic surgeon with piriformis syndrome. His surgeon wants him to try a little bit of physical therapy before the surgeon is considering giving this patient a bilateral hip replacement. So basically fix this person or we're going to replace both of his knees. So our mission is obviously to keep MF away from that. So coming into the clinic, initial evaluation, looking at the symptom behavior, reporting he's got about a 4 out of 10 pain at the worst around his sit bones. So he's pointing to his ischial tuberosities, and that when it's really aggravated, it'll kind of radiate down the hamstring muscle belly. But that majority of the time, sitting at rest, it's a 0 out of 10. And it's really only aggravated with aggravating activities, which we'll talk about. And it's best if he can move. Feels better after movement or laying down. So aggravating factors for him, running or walking. Cycling doesn't really seem to bug him, especially when he gets into heavy volume. As he's finishing up maybe a longer 5-mile run is when he really starts to notice the symptoms. And then prolonged sitting while driving. So a longer drive to work, about 45 minutes each way, noticing as he goes throughout the drive, and if he happens to drive longer than 45 minutes, that those symptoms really start coming on. And that he can feel better and pretty much instantaneously ease his pain if he can stand up and move around. So eases movement, standing, walking, getting out of a sitting position, or getting into some activity that gets his heart rate up will resolve his pain in about 5 minutes. And then currently coming into the clinic, reporting that he does have a prescription of meloxicam from the orthopedic surgeon, which he has started taking. And that is something that will reduce the severity of his symptoms when he's having them, especially during aggravating activities like running, but that it doesn't really actually resolve. So looking at this patient, all things considered, irritability and severity are quite low. Pain does not really jump that high. He's able to work through it. He's able to exercise through it. And then it eases quite easily. So overall, low to moderate on severity and irritability. Looking at now kind of what's been going on behind these symptoms. Been having these symptoms for almost 2 years, increasing in intensity over the past couple years, and then limiting his ability to run both speed and volume. And that been going on for so long that he's kind of just given up on it and has stopped running completely in the 6 months leading up to him presenting to physical therapy. And he's pretty much sedentary now. He's not running, he's not cycling, he's not really doing anything else, kind of just waking up, driving to work and coming home now. So he would like to return to running. He has a goal to touch his toes again. He's kind of noticing alongside no longer exercising regularly that he's getting quite stiff and immobile. And he'd also like to begin a strength training program, kind of saying, hey, I know I'm supposed to be cross training and stuff, but I don't really know what to do. I run because I like to run and it makes me feel better. And I like to cycle on the weekends with my wife and spend time with her. That's what we do to kind of hang out together. And I just like to get back to all that stuff. But I would love your help developing a strength training program or learning about some cross training, not only to get me back to running, but to keep me running because it's something I see doing for basically the rest of my life, which was awesome to hear from somebody that's already 54 that they don't plan to give it up anytime soon unless they have to. So initial hypotheses on the table based on he's pointing that point pain. He's pointing right to a specific spot. Specifically, he's pointing to the origin of the hamstring muscles there on the ischial tuberosities. Some muscle radiation is to be expected. So that's primary on my list. Especially with the meloxicam helping a little bit, but not really touching it. That once we get into some activity, it feels better for a while. And then after activity, it always feels worse. Those are kind of all the classic hallmarks of a tendinopathy, especially that it's been going on now for a couple of years. Also on my list, just low back pain, whether it's mechanical or whether it could be nerve related. Those are on my list. So those are some things I want to rule in or rule out, mainly just because of those bilateral symptoms. Those aren't typical. That pain would be on both sides of the body and radiate down the legs, but it kind of makes sense considering where the hamstrings attach, especially proximally. So getting into my objective exam, screening the lumbar spine, looking at active and passive range of motion in all planes, including overpressure as well as quadrants. With that, unable to reproduce symptoms, gave him a straight leg raise, could not reproduce symptoms there. Went a little bit more aggressive and went to the slump test. Again, nothing sticking out or any reproduction of any radiating symptoms. And then getting him prone cannot reproduce any symptoms with prone PA examination. So pretty quickly moving him through a lumbar exam, I'm thinking this probably isn't coming from his low back. And then digging a little bit into the hip now to kind of prove to myself that it is the hamstring. When looking at prone extension, a little bit in side lying extension, just screening the hip, which made me have him flip to prone, both with leg straight and leg bent, had that reproduction. Also had pain with resisted flexion of the knee. So really just kind of telling me we can't elongate those hamstrings without pain reproduction, and just kind of proving the case to myself that we're dealing with something hamstring wise. So for him, just looking to change some symptoms here. So after the objective exam, went into trial treatment, did some dry needling, went into the low back to grab L4 through S1 levels, just knowing that's kind of the formation of the tibial nerve, and that's what's going to innervate the hamstrings. And then getting into the hamstring muscle belly bilaterally, doing the 310 hertz sweep, and then hitting that for about 20 minutes. And then my retest here was resisted hip extension and prone and resisted knee flexion, which were sore but pain-free. So saw a little bit of change there. And then in our exam, he could barely bend over and touch his the tips of his knees with forward flexion. No pain, reproduction there, just stiff. And then after dry needling, able to get all the way down and touch his fingertips to the top of his shoes. So seeing some improvement in hamstring muscle activation and range of motion there. And again, just kind of proving to myself with that we are dealing with something hamstring. And then deciding what to give him for home. And then also digging a little bit deeper into nutrition. So while he's sitting on the dry needles, I'm saying, MF, tell me like what you eat every day. Like, do you know how much protein you're getting? You're running a lot. Some weeks you're running 25 miles, you're biking 50 miles. That's a lot of volume. Like, tell me about your nutrition plan. And unfortunately, as is very common, he could not tell me a nutrition plan because he doesn't really have one. He's like, I don't know. I just kind of eat the same thing every meal. And I don't find myself to be hungry. And it kind of works for me. So his homework was to download my Fitness Pal, had him download in the clinic, go home, track all of his food for a week and come back at his next visit. And part of his home program would be tracking that stuff to get an idea of how many calories is he eating? Is he eating enough food? And is he eating enough protein? Because certainly over the course of this 2-year problem now, nutrition could be a contributing factor, especially with somebody that's continuing to kind of train through symptoms that I'm mainly concerned that we're not getting enough protein. And then loading here, nothing crazy. He's got some kettlebells at home. So just mainly trying to load up the hamstrings a little bit with a Jefferson curl. So having to do 5 sets of 5 every 2 hours with a 20-pound kettlebell and just going off the stairs, just really starting to kind of poke the bear a bit on those hamstring symptoms, and then also work him towards his goal of being able to touch his toes again. So he went off with a plan to track his food and then hit some Jefferson curls a couple times throughout the day to work on that hamstring. So coming back now, Visit 2, my asterisk signs with him, forward flexion. Again, not concerned about range of motion of the spine or anything. For him, his goal is I want to touch my toes. So that's something we're working towards. Symptoms with driving is his main thing. We're not back to running yet, so that's not something measuring currently, but it's something you'll see that I'll start to measure. So for him, how long can you drive before you have symptoms? So able to maintain the range of motion we gained between sessions. Driving, no real change, and able to do the Jefferson curls as prescribed. Coming in with his MyFitnessPal app and looking at his nutrition, basically eating what I imagine the food intake of a toddler is, right? So breakfast for this gentleman, 1 slice of wheat bread and 2 tablespoons of honey. So breakfast is about 100 calories. Lunch is a can of tomato soup and a turkey sandwich. So a little bit more food, but not much, about 400 calories for lunch. On his way home from work, he has a Kind bar, again, about 180 calories, not a lot of food. Normally in this time frame is when he would go out for his run, and then coming back in from his run, he has dinner, which is, again, not much more impressive than lunch. 6 ounces of fish, usually salmon with some mixed vegetables. So crunching his numbers, average daily intake, about 1,100 calories, 70 grams of protein. And this is a person that weighs about 150 pounds. So nowhere close on calorie intake, nowhere close on protein intake, massively underfed individual. So this is something we addressed even before we talked about any sort of loading or anything like that. So we talked about options for him to get more food throughout the day and get more protein throughout the day. I said, hey, you need to mix up some PB2 or something and put that on that bread instead of your honey. And then we need to look at maybe some meal replacement bars in the afternoon instead of that Kind bar. Kind bar is really not a lot of food at all. So trying to get some ways for him without him having to make a big lifestyle change to introduce some more calories and introduce some more protein. So that's something that we immediately addressed on that visit. Manual therapy again, repeating what we did last time, dry needling to the lumbar spine to grab the tibial nerve roots and into the hamstring muscle bellies. And then out in the gym, trying to establish a baseline of strength this visit and know where we're going strength-wise. So every minute and a half for 5 sets, we did 5 barbell hip thrusts. So we did some building sets, 95, 95, 115, and then 2 sets at 125. And then that last set of 125, I had him do an AMRAP, so as many rounds or reps as possible. He was able to do 12 reps, plug that into my 1Rep Max app and see that his 1Rep Max hip thrust is about 175 pounds. So I know the next time we do hip thrusts, I need to be working at 105 pounds or more. And then with this patient, the goal, getting back to a lot of endurance activity, running and cycling, need to reintroduce some conditioning to this patient. So having him hit a 12-minute AMRAP, 10 calories on the C2 spin bike, 12 wall balls here, so squat to press with a medicine ball, and then adding in those Jefferson curls at the end of every round, just knowing that is an easing factor for him if we can get some load through those hamstrings. So the goal here, just some conditioning, and then seeing how he responds to it afterwards is going to be another goal. So that was visit 2. Visit 3, coming back in, forward bending, still at the top of the shoes. Driving, not much change. Did his homework as prescribed. Reports he went out on a walk with his wife. He's able to walk a mile without symptoms on hilly terrain, which is an improvement for him. No pain since last visit, so didn't really flare anything up by having him do the hip thrusts and the AMRAP. And then reporting, tracked his food again. He added in the PB2 to his morning toast, and he added in a metrics bar. I got a little picture of it here to his afternoon snack. These are great. These are meal replacement bars. For your folks who are underfed, pressed for time, your older adults, they're nice. They're a little bit high in sugar, but they have about 450 calories and they have a ton of protein. Most of the bars have like 45 grams of protein. So for those folks who are just not able to get in a lot of food and or protein, these are really nice to recommend. So coming back in, now eating an average about 1,800 calories a day, about 120 grams of protein, so pretty much doubling his protein intake, all good signs. So really happy with that. Just encouraged him, hey, I'd love to see you bump that up a little bit more if we can get in some more servings of meat or something at lunch and or dinner. I'd love to see you getting towards your body weight in protein. So trying to get about 30 more grams of protein a day, but really happy that he was able to quickly make those changes on the nutrition. Out in the gym loading today, no dry needling, working on deadlifts. So again, just finding a bunch of different ways to hammer his posterior chain. Every 2 minutes for 5 sets, we built up and did 155 across all 5 sets. And then some accessory work here, some single leg strengthening. So some dumbbell rear foot elevated split squats, 13 pounds per hand. Very challenged with single leg quad and hamstring work here. Getting him up on the GHD and doing some Nordic curls. Not able to do it independently. And then even with band assist, couldn't do it. So put a soft box in front of him where he's lowering down, catching himself on the box, and then pushing himself back up to get those Nordic curls done. And then really introducing some easy jogging here, 100 meters on the treadmill. Did okay with all of this. And then his left was homework. He's still going to be focused on nutrition. He's still going to be doing his Jefferson curls, but giving him some really short, simple running workouts to do. Like, hey, we're not out of the woods yet. You're not free game to go back to run as much as you want. I want you to do these 2 running workouts about 48 to 72 hours apart from them. And then we'll see how you did when you come in next week. So giving him one workout where he does 5 rounds of jogging a minute and walking 2 minutes. And then another one, more steady state, jog for 10 minutes and then walk for 10 minutes afterwards. Coming back in, visit 4, forward flexion, driving the same. Did his home program as we talked about. The interval running workout had no symptoms, but the longer steady state, having him run for 10 minutes and then walk for 10 minutes did increase some of his symptoms and had some of that radiation down into his hamstrings that lasted about 12 hours. So into that evening, into that night, but better by the time he woke up, which is fantastic. I think that's an awesome response. I think we can get scared with provoking symptoms in patients dealing with tendinopathy symptoms. But that is a really good response. Like, that's a yellow light response. Symptoms spiked, but they eased, and they eased relatively quickly. If he had come back in and said, hey, that destroyed me, my pain was terrible, it lasted for like 3 days, or it's still going on, that patient that texts you like, it's worse, I need to come in today, that is maybe too much load and too much running, but all things considered, a really great response to reintroducing running. So back out in the gym, some accessory work to start, 4 rounds not for time, some barbell step ups to a 20-inch box, and then introducing some tempo to those hamstrings. I love to, if you have a rower, to have people sit their butt. You guys can't see my cursor. Sit their butt here and then bridge and have their heels on the seat so that they do a bridge. They straighten those legs all the way out, taking 3 seconds to go straight, curling it back in fast, and then going back out. That will totally annihilate somebody's hamstrings in a really productive manner. So we did 15 of those with the step ups, 4 rounds. And then again, some conditioning, 12-minute AMRAP, having him stand on the C2 bike, taking the seat off and having him stand. So mountain bike style, some sumo kettlebell deadlifts, some reverse hyperextensions, some Jefferson curls added in there, just for hamstring lengthening and easing factor. And he's able to crunch through some good volume here, getting through 5 rounds of that and some change. And then progressing his running homework. So giving him 5 rounds of a 2-minute jog and a 2-minute walk, and then giving him some faster paced running intervals, starting to work on his speed again, 30 seconds of running and then a minute 30 of walking. Coming back in, visit 5, forward flexion unchanged, driving unchanged, did his homework as prescribed. So the 10 rounds of the faster run gave him some left-sided symptoms that lasted about 12 hours. So again, same response as last time, lasted into the evening, better by morning, just sore today. Perfect, right where we want to be. Out to the gym, some tempo RDLs, again, lots of eccentrics here for the hamstrings, some Nordic curls on GHDs. Hamstrings are getting stronger. We're able to use a green band over our chest and use the band to help lower ourselves down. So we're able to move through the full range of motion now with the Nordic curl, which is great with some assistance. Doing some running in the gym, just looking at his form, nothing stuck out. 2 minutes of a jog, 30 minutes of a fast run, and then 2 minutes of walking, had no symptoms there. And then I just had him repeat his running homework. It wasn't completely symptom-free yet, especially that faster interval workout. So he went back home with that for homework. Visit 6, back in, forward flexion, not changed, driving, not changed, did all of his homework, but now we see with that running homework, he had no symptoms, repeating it for a second week and says, hey, running has not felt this good in years. So seeing some positive momentum swing with his running, which is great. Out to the gym, retesting that hip thrust, doing 5 sets of 5 here. We built up to 185 pounds for 5. So we know previously, about 2 or 3 weeks before this, his predicted 1 rep max was 175. So we know posterior chain is getting stronger here. Running in the gym now and then adding it in, intentionally fatiguing the hamstrings. So 5 rounds of a 1-minute run, bumping up the pace here to 8.5 miles an hour. A minute 30 jog at a self-selected pace, so kind of recovery, and then running over to the GHD for some Nordic curls. So intentionally challenging, fatiguing those hamstrings while we're trying to actively run and run at a good clip. Did well with that, no issues. Progressing his homework now. 5 rounds, 3-minute jog, 3-minute walk, and then another workout later in the week, 1-minute run, 1-minute walk. So progressing how fast we're running at a faster pace for. Coming back into the clinic, visit 7 here. Now able to touch his fingers to the floor. So we've met our goal, being able to touch the floor again. And now saying, you know what? It's not always bothersome when I drive to and from work. I only notice it sometimes. There's sometimes I get to work or I get home and I say, hey, my hamstrings didn't bug me on that drive. So now that symptom is starting to become intermittent. And then able to do all his running homework, maintain a good speed, 7 miles an hour or faster for all of his bouts. So endurance is going up, capacity is going up, speed is going up. So performance is getting better, which is great. Out in the gym, doing just some standing hamstring curls. If you're in a gym like us and you don't have machines for like knee extension and knee flexion, this thing is nice. It's called a monkey foot. It's like a ski board binding, and then you put a dumbbell in that claw there. And so you can do isolated lower extremity joint exercises like knee extensions, quad extensions, and hamstring curls when you don't have a traditional plate loaded machine. So this is a nice thing to have if you are in a CrossFit style gym like us. And then just working calves and stuff, knowing that we're getting back to running volume. We need to make sure the whole chain is good to go. So I'm doing some single leg calf raises against some load, and then just introducing some upper body stuff here, knowing his goal was to get into a couple of days a week of strength training. And again, challenging his running under hamstring fatigue. So having him do a workout, 21-15-9 of deadlifts at 115 pounds, and then a run after every round. So 21 deadlifts, 800-meter run, 15 deadlifts, 500-meter run, 9 deadlifts, 300-meter run. He's able to get that done under 20 minutes, no symptoms. And then just having him repeat his running homework again for another week. Getting towards the end here, visit 8. Rechecking some asterisks, able to touch the floor for forward flexion. Still reporting driving is not always perfect, but is intermittent. No symptoms with the running program, and just reports he's able to walk 6 miles with his wife without symptoms, and that he has run out of the meloxicam and is no longer taking it. So this will be a good way to see, was it the meloxicam or was it the physical therapy that made you feel better? Because now the meloxicam is going to be tapering out of our system. Over to the gym, doing a remom, doing some sled pushing, some Nordic curls, and some side planks. And then again, a lot of lower body strengthening and conditioning, 30-20-10, overhead kettlebell swings and box step-ups. And then progressing his running homework, giving him 5 rounds of a 3-minute run, telling him fast pace, fast but sustainable pace, 3-minute walk after every run. And then now 20 to 30-minute jog, should be slower, but increasing the time that we're running. So no rest at all in there. Just go jog for 20 to 30 minutes and see how that feels. Coming back in, forward flexion fine. Unable to recall a time in the past week that he had discomfort with driving. So that's improving. Running did give him an aggravation of symptoms with the longer duration running. With the faster pace running by increasing the duration, but the steady state jog had no issue. So now seems to be related to when we try to pick up speed, when we try to activate the hamstrings a little bit more, that we're getting the symptoms when running. Out to the gym, loading, some goblet squats, some Nordic curls, some alternating V-ups, working the core and the hamstring at the same time. Repeating a workout that we did a couple weeks ago, that 21-15-9 deadlift workout with running, bumped it up to 135 here, and he was able to go faster with more weight after only a couple of weeks, which is great. Again, just telling us that he's getting stronger. Reduce the time he's spending running at a fast pace here. So instead of 3 minutes of running, he's doing 1:30 and then still getting that 3-minute walk and then bumping up that steady state run to 30 minutes. Coming back in, all the asterisks are good. Forward flexion driving, running, did not aggravate any symptoms in that 30-minute jog, is able to run a 5K and had no symptoms. So the intervals are not bugging him. The steady state's not bugging him, doing pretty well with running. Out to the gym, barbell hip thrusts, again, getting heavier this time, able to increase for a set of 5 by 10 pounds. And then 4 rounds for time of a bunch of accessory work, some barbell hip thrusts, some step ups, and some alternating V-ups. And then having him repeat some of his running homework, with the main thing being, instead of a 30-minute jog, telling him to try and shoot for 4 miles, now that we know that he can clear a 5K without symptoms. Coming back in, visit 11, asterisks are fine, no aggravation of symptoms with faster interval running, able to run 4 miles during the 30-minute steady state without symptoms. So now most of our asterisks are symptom-free most of the time, which is great. Out to the gym, doing some rounds of reverse deficit lunges with a barbell on the back rack, and then doing some alternating plate taps just to introduce some fatigue to the body while we're doing those lunges. And then having him do a really lower body heavy AMRAP, some cals on the bike, some Nordic curls, able to go down to just the red band this time. So hamstrings are definitely getting stronger, some jump squats and some good mornings. So really crushing his quads and hamstrings with this workout. Did really well, no issues. Repeating the homework for the run through the next week. Coming back in, did notice a slight aggravation in symptoms with driving, but he drove 3 hours. And again, once he was able to get out of the car, symptoms went away in 5 minutes. So all things considered, not serious. No aggravation of symptoms, still able to run 4 miles during the steady state and have no symptoms. Out to the gym, repeating barbell hip thrust strength test. We did every 90 seconds for 6 sets. We did a set of 4. In that last set, I had him do an AMRAP. He was able to do 15 reps at 205, which tells us his 1 rep max is probably around 335. With reps that high, the estimation isn't that accurate, but we know it's surely higher than when he came in visit 2, and we found that his 1 rep was about 175. So all things considered, I think it's safe to say his strength has probably doubled at this point, which is great. And then just a little accessory piece here, 97531, some box step ups, some Nordic curls, and some heavy band hip circle clamshells. Running homework. This is not a repeat. I am having him do 10 rounds, 1 minute fast, 1 minute jog. So no more walking, just to kind of really tax his system running and seeing how he does. And then bumping his longer run out to 35 minutes. Coming back in, no issues with driving, running, no symptoms at all, and able to pick it up to a 9-minute mile for that longer run. Out to the gym, deadlifts building up to 185 for sets of 5 here, 6 by 5. Good mornings, calf raises, introduces some plyometrics here with box jumps and working the core a little bit. And then running homework, bumping up that 1 minute fast run to 1:30. And now kind of opening up the steady state of like, hey, I know you used to go for some really long runs, 5 miles or so. This week, I just want you to go jog for 30 to 45 minutes. Don't worry about your pace, and let's just see where we end up mileage wise. And then coming back in, visit 14, everything's good. Running now, back to running 5 miles without symptoms, faster interval workouts without symptoms. So across these next couple of visits, visit 14 through 20, just continuing to load up deadlift, hip thrust, working the hamstring, progressing the running, working the running speed and volume back up. And then a lot of his sessions started to look more like what the class was doing in CrossFit class, knowing that he needs to be doing some sort of cross training a day or 2 a week. Conveniently, a lot of his friends take the 3:30 p.m. class at the gym, and he happened to see me at 3:30 for his appointments. So he's seeing a lot of his friends in class who are at this point ribbing him for not joining. So at this point, he's quite committed to join in the gym to do his cross training with us in CrossFit class. over these couple of weeks here, these 6 visits, able to increase running volume up to 10 to 25 miles a week. So we're back to where we were pre-injury. He's able to do some PT strengthening I gave him with some kettlebells at home, nothing crazy, some tempo, deadlifts with the kettlebell, some Russian swings, just a lot of stuff loading the hamstrings. So he's doing that about 1 to 2 days a week. And then he's back out cycling with his wife on the weekend, getting about 25 to 50 miles back on the bike. And then during this time frame report, he's able to go up to his cabin, which is about a 4-hour drive each way, and not have symptoms. So we've cleared up all the symptoms. We're back to running, back to cycling. We are touching our toes to the ground. We've cleared up a lot of nutrition stuff, and we've started to introduce a strength training program. So all of his goals are met. Back to running, back to cycling, doing cross training, riding to work in his car symptom free, and touching his toes. So helped him reach all of those goals. And then just looking through this case as I kind of type this up and wrap this up of what did I learn from this patient. Probably the most important thing is the sooner we can address nutrition and other stuff besides what's going on with our pain and what we're going to do about it. It was really important to have a positive impact. This is a person that was eating 1,000 calories a day and 70 grams of protein for who knows how long, years, decades, while trying to run a relatively high volume a week and cycle a high volume a week on top of going to work and being otherwise active in his life. So addressing nutrition, I think the sooner you can do it, the better. And then just being really patient with the progression of a tendinopathy, especially when there's a lot of stuff on board, under feeding, not doing any resistance training or cross training. And for this patient now coming into PT, would be classified, even though previously active, we would call him sedentary. Now hasn't exercised for 6 months. So all that on board, be patient. You might not see this massive change in symptoms, especially with a tendinopathy that's been going on for a while, like this patient for 2 years. That acute low back pain patient that you can manipulate or needle and you erase their pain and you seem like a witch doctor. It just doesn't happen like that with most of these patients, and just being patient and having that conversation up front, I think in the evaluation, that I think this is a tendinopathy. We're going to get through this, but I think, we're probably on board for twice a week for probably a couple months. Like if you can give me twice a week for 2 to 3 months, I'm confident we can get over this. But this isn't going to be like you walk out the door today and you're fully healed. So just being patient, making sure the patient knows to be patient, and then finding other stuff to measure because those symptoms may not change. So measuring strength, measuring running speed, measuring running volume, finding other goals for that patient that you can measure their progress towards can be really important when you're not seeing a change in symptoms like you might with other patients, acute pain patients or post-op patients that tend to improve really, really well. So just be really patient and don't be disappointed when they come back in and they're not magically better visit after visit. So that's MF. I'm happy to take any questions. Pull up Zoom here, and I'll pull up the Facebook stream here and take any questions you all may have on this case. See the chat there. Oh my goodness. Anna, why didn't you message me that earlier? My screen hasn't been shared this whole time. Well, that would probably be helpful. So these are the slides that you should have been seeing. So I'll post a link to these slides so you all can review these slides. There's not much on them. It's just the words that I told you about. But I'm glad you said that. I'll get these slides out to you all. It's the first Zoom mistake. Okay, hearing none, seeing none, we'll wrap it up here. We do this the second Wednesday of every month. So we'll do it again the second Wednesday of September. Just like this will be 7:30 p.m. Eastern on a Wednesday evening. And we'll talk through another case. So if you all have examples of cases you would like to see, maybe a specific patient population, maybe a specific diagnosis, please reach out to me. You can email me, info@ice.physio, physio, and we can dig through the caseload and see if there's a case that you all want to see. Otherwise, we'll see you next month. If you're looking to learn about more stuff like this, I teach a course for ICE called Clinical Management of the Fitness Athlete Essential Foundations. Our next class is actually starting the second Monday of the month, so it'll be starting before our next meeting. So jump into that class. That's 8 weeks online. We have a case study every week, a lot of lecture and research supporting why we treat and dose and load patients the way we do. So if this kind of stuff interests you and you haven't taken that course yet, look into that course. You can find out more. Ice.physio is our website. Click around on the courses, read the description. And if you have any questions, again, my email is info@ice.physio, and I'll get these slides posted under the event page on Facebook so that you can have those, since I was an idiot and didn't share my screen the whole time. So hope you all have a great August. We'll see you back here in September, and thanks for watching.